Well, I'm usually an easygoing person. I'm quite tolerant, but there's two things that really annoy me. One of them is inequality, and the other one is lack of freedom of choice. And it is this I would like to talk about today. I don't often have a rant, but I think I need to get a few things off my chest. Dan and I have just spent a lovely week in the Cotswolds, but all I can say is what a difference between the North Cotswolds and a bit further south. We had no problem choosing whether to pay in cash or by card in either Tewkesbury or Cirencester. We found both communities really friendly, the shopkeepers were lovely, helpful, and were only too pleased to accept cash. In fact, one or two businesses were cash only, and while I don't really agree with that, because I think they should be offering both options, the fact of the matter is, if you're a small business, bank charges can be quite steep, and it means that if you're a food business in particular, where the profit margin is only between 5 to 10% on average, maybe you're not able to offer a card option as well as cash if your profit margins are that tight. The other problem, of course, is that a lot of banks have closed, which makes it more difficult to do your daily banking if you're a business. It also can mean that if you've got money held on the premises, you might be prone to robbery, which is a real concern because such cases have been on the increase in recent years. Sometimes people blame it on the cost of living crisis, but there's millions of individuals and families living on or below the breadline who don't commit any acts of theft, whether it's a petty theft or an aggravated burglary or other type of robbery. So that excuse doesn't really wash very well. The criminal mind can be formed from quite an early age. It's not going to happen overnight just because you haven't got any money. It runs a lot deeper than that. It's a social problem that has been inherited throughout successive governments. The main problems we had with no cash were in the North Cotswolds. We went to Daylesford Organic as our first port of call. We wanted a coffee. They had a coffee van among all the plants and flowers in the garden centre area. Now I must say, the first time we visited Daylesford Organic must have been nearly 2 decades ago, when it was a far smaller operation. Since then, many more lines have been added to its retail portfolio. Now it's got lots of different buildings, none of which are very well signposted. It was difficult even finding the coffee van, and there was no note on the van to say that it was card only. So we ordered our coffee and cake only to be told no, our cash wasn't welcome and we needed to pay by card. And the pieces of cake were not particularly good value for money either, and we decided to walk away. We just thought it was poor show that a business like Daylesford Organic would not be open to taking a cash payment. We don't know about the other departments, but can only assume that it might be a similar story, but correct me if we're wrong. We decided to go into Stow-on-the-Wold. That was better. The businesses we went in, they were happy to take cash. Some of them looked a bit card only, if you like, hipster, but I can't say for sure. We had a nice lunch at the Hive. It's an independent business. They were happy to take our cash payment, although lunch was quite expensive, but the customer service was excellent and we would go there again. The quality of the food and ingredients was very high. They also had honey and handmade candles available to purchase as well. Lovely beeswax candles. On Wednesday we decided to go to Diddley Squat and the Farmer's Dog, which are Jeremy Clarkson's businesses, just to see what all the fuss was about really. Well, imagine our disappointment, though not really surprise, to find out that the only cash payments welcome was the cow juice or milk vending machine, which took coins, and the Farmer's Dog overflow car park, which was a field, and the £2 charged went towards the farmers. I'm not sure whether it was Jeremy Clarkson's field or whether it was another farmer's field, whether they have some arrangement. But those were the only two instances where cash was welcome. Now we had an hour and a half queuing up in order to buy anything from the Diddley Squat farm shop, and when we eventually got there we saw the card only notice. I was really disappointed. Now Jezza, if you're listening to this, I think in general your customer service is really good. Your products are amazing. I really like the farm shop. I like the quality of the merchandise. It's very good quality. The brownie was scrumptious. It was the last chocolate brownie. The crisps are great. I know that's the work of your lovely Lisa, so well done Lisa. The beer is delicious. We were happy with all the other things that we chose, and although we decided on this occasion to buy some products even though you weren't accepting our cash, I did have a word with the lovely staff about it, because I think the pinnacle of good customer service is to offer the choice between card and cash. Now Jezza, I like your ethos. I like the fact that you support No Farmers, No Food campaign. But remember that campaign is also about freedom of choice. So I think not to accept a cash payment is a teensy little bit hypocritical, do you not think? The other thing as well to consider, Jazz, is that supposing the system goes down, which it does sometimes with digital card payments, the card machines fail, the banks go down. It's happened quite a few times in recent months where big supermarkets have lost a lot of trade because they've been unable to process card payments. Also, there's the other thing about surveillance. If you want to go down a rabbit hole and maybe think of a dystopian future, if Joe Bloggs wants to buy some beer, he his lovely Hawkstone beer, but the bank refused his payment because he bought beer earlier in the week and the system does not agree with his liking of beer. He's had enough beer. The system believes for his own health and well-being he should cut down on beer. That's a loss of trade to yourself and many other businesses as well. It's the same as if Mrs. Smith wants to buy a Scotch egg or a pound of sausages and then again her card is declined. She bought meat earlier in the week and she's told, as part of the climate change emergency measures, she's only allowed to purchase and consume 500 grams of meat per week, and instead she needs to be buying some insects, crickets perhaps, or some witchery grubs. These things could be very real situations in the future. Who knows? I'm not saying they will be. These are just scenarios, but they're going to affect your business, Jezza, as well as lots of other people's businesses and farmers, of course. Because if Mrs. Smith is only able to buy a pound of pork sausages a week and nothing else, then what use are the cattle and the pigs and the sheep going to be to the farmers? Yes, there's the wool and there's the hides, but what's going to happen to the meat? Is there going to be a meat mountain? What will happen? These are very real scenarios. Whereas if Joe Bloggs wants some beer and you take a cash payment, there's no problem. The system doesn't know that Joe Bloggs has already consumed 6 pints of Hawkstone lager with his friends over a pizza and the football earlier in the week. And Mrs. Smith, if she's able to spend a shiny £10 note, can buy 2 Scotch eggs from the farmer's dog without any repercussion, or she can go to the butcher and buy a joint of beef as well as her beloved pork sausages. And if the system goes down, people can still pay in cash, so businesses will not lose money should the system go down. But so often these days people are conditioned to use their cards. I noted, for example, while Dan and I were queuing up at Diddley Squat, people were just paying for their things like automatons without even questioning the system. It was only Dan and I who dared to question it. So Jezza, I love what you're doing and I support what you're doing for farming, but please do support the cash option as well. My Dan is self-employed. He's a sole trader, he's a piano tuner, and he has to travel every day to do his job because the pianos can't come to him to be tuned. He has to go to the pianos. And he takes cheques, backs payments, and also cash. And where we live in Thanet, there are very few banks remaining. Some of our villages and small towns don't even have any banks anymore. But we make sure that we still offer those choices to our customers, and we will continue to do so. And we were at Western Cider Farm, which I know makes your cider, Jezza, and they accept cards card or cash payments. And there are many thousands of businesses, big and small, like them up and down the country, even in rural locations. We never have a problem, for example, in Dumfries and Galloway, which is still 70% agricultural. They are all happy to take cash or card, except for a very few businesses. There are some people who refuse to patronise businesses that do not accept cash. And cash is still a legal tender. It's the king's money, and cash is king and queen. Cash is freedom. Please remember that. So if all those businesses up and down the country can offer a choice, then you too should be able to offer a choice. I don't know whether you'll see this vlog, but if you do, please take my comments on board and give it some consideration, even just some consideration, or give us your reasons for why you cannot do it. We need to be able to sit on the bench together and have a debate, even if we agree to disagree, and not fall out of it. The food at the dog looked amazing. We didn't buy any food, although we did have some of your lovely beer. I had half of the Hawkston Pilsner, which was fabulous, and Dan had the 0.3. We were very impressed, but we didn't buy anything because the food was quite expensive. And well, as I'm sure you'll appreciate, being self-employed, Dan's taken a week out of work and we have a strict budget. I'm mostly a housewife, and while Dan's not at work, I'm older than Dan, and whilst Dan is not at work, he's not earning any money, so our budget was rather too tight to have a meal. We hadn't factored it into our budget in terms of card payments. We needed to keep our card payments for other things, such as petrol and any urgent things as well. And we prefer to use cash payments because that helps us budget better, like many other people. And myself, as a person getting closer to pensionable age with a limited income, I find it's more important than ever to pay for things in cash rather than by card. If I use my card, I like to be able to do so because it's my choice, not because I have to. Yes, it was my choice to buy things from your diddly squat farm shop. I could have easily walked away, but I thought, well, we don't know when we're next going to visit the area, so I will buy these things. That was my choice. But Dan was tempted to just walk away. We went into Burford and were dismayed to find so many businesses, even independent businesses, not accepting cash payments. What happened to cash? Cash is legal tender. Anyway, we found a lovely independent cafe that was more than happy to take our cash, and we had a very nice little lunch and a good wander. I would reach out to any business to ask to policy if all you offer is card. And I would also reach out to any cash business who only takes cash to think about whether you can offer card payments. It's the card payments only option though that really rankles with me to a greater extent. Thanks for listening, and I hope this isn't too ranty, but I just wanted to get a few things off my chest. See you again soon. Bye for now.